The family of the victim speaks out about the surprise sentencing.
25 was the number I had in my head.
It was a shock. I felt like I buried my brother all over again.
Amber's offensive texts, the disturbing body cam footage.
How many times have you seen that in your head since then?
And why the victim's own brother
Can I give her a hug, please?
Yes.
is forgiving the killer cop.
You pay yes for what you did, but in my heart, I know I am free.
Now, from Dallas, Texas, here's Dr. Phil.
In this very courthouse right here behind me, a sentencing has come down that has shocked both the city and the nation. A jury of 12 people deliberated for just 5 hours before deciding the fate of former police officer Amber Geiger. It was one of the biggest trials of the year and one that had people across the nation calling for justice for the death of yet another innocent and unarmed black man. Geiger was off duty when on September 6, 2018, she entered the apartment of her upstairs neighbor, Botham Jean, and shot him dead.
Dallas 911, this is Carla. Where's your emergency?
I'm an off-duty officer. I thought it was in my apartment, and I shot a guy.
It's a case that's captivated not just Dallas, but the entire country.
1478 was Botham Jean's apartment. It's where the 26-year-old's young life was cut short when he was shot by a police officer.
John was shot in the place he should have been safest, his own home.
She was still in uniform when she encountered Mr. Jean in the apartment. It's not clear what interaction was between them.
This is Geiger pacing in the stairwell on her phone just moments after the shooting.
In an orange jumpsuit, former Dallas police officer Amber Geiger is now charged with murder.
Amber Geiger's lawyers say the shooting was an accident, that she was off duty for the night and entered the wrong apartment by mistake, the one directly above her own.
This footage shows the chaotic moments after Amber Geiger killed Botham Jean in his own home.
She mistook 26-year-old Botham Jean for a burglar in her apartment when she opened fire.
Geiger testified she heard loud shuffling inside the apartment she thought was her own.
Why did you fire?
I was scared. I was scared this person in the apartment was going to hurt me.
Prosecutors say Geiger did little to help Jean as he laid on the floor dying.
Breaking news in Dallas. Tonight, a jury is weighing a prison sentence for Amber Geiger. She was found guilty today of murder.
You could hear the gasps and sobs from the gallery. Jean's family waited for more than a year for this day. Jean's mother, Allison, stretched her arms in jubilation. She faces 5 to 99 years in prison.
This verdict is for Trayvon Martin. It's for Michael Brown. It's for Sandra Bland. It's for Tamir Rice. It's for Eric Gardner.
But that victory quickly turned to disappointment and outrage. Geiger was facing anywhere between 5 and 99 years. Prosecutors requested 28 years, one for every year of Botham Jean's life. 28. That's the age he would have turned this year if he was alive. But in a shocking move, the jury sentenced her to just 10 years behind bars.
A jury has sentenced former Dallas police officer Amber Geiger to 10 years in prison.
Geiger's sentence today sparked both outrage and an emotional moment of forgiveness.
No justice, no peace! No justice, no peace!
At the same time, inside the courtroom, a dramatic scene was unfolding.
I forgive you.
Botham Jean's 18-year-old brother, Brant, told Geiger that he didn't want to see her rot in prison and that he had one request before she was taken to her jail cell.
I love you as a person, and I don't wish anything bad on you. I don't know if this is possible, but can I give her a hug, please?
Geiger's attorney called it humbling and the most amazing moment he had ever seen in a courtroom.
Today, in an exclusive interview, for the first time, Botham Jean's family is sitting down all together with their attorneys to react to what they say is a devastating sentence. Let me begin by saying I am so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
I mean, I just don't even have the words to say how sorry I am for your loss.
Yeah.
Thank you for sitting down with me.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a lot about your son as it goes on, but I want to kind of bring us current with where we are. Were you surprised that the defendant in this case was found guilty?
No. I wasn't surprised, no.
Why were you not surprised? You felt they...
When I listened to the facts of the case, it led me to believe that.
And you too, you thought it was
the same
proven?
thing. I think the prosecution worked very hard to bring out all of the facts of the case, and the defense's arguments were not as strong. So I had a feeling that it would lead to the outcome that we got.
We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant, Amber Geiger, guilty of murder as charged in the indictment.
Well, let's talk about the sentence then. When the sentence came out, this is murder. She could get 5 to 99 years. They asked for 28, she got 10. How did you feel about the sentence?
Well, this one shocked me.
That did shock you?
Yeah, this one shocked me. Yeah. Never expected it to be so low. Yes. I felt the same. It should have been about 25 to 28.
We all know you go to the courthouse to get legal accountability. You don't go there to get justice. We refer to it as a justice system, but there's no justice in the courthouse, because the justice would be to have your son back.
That's right.
That's the only justice, right? To have your brother back.
That's right.
There's no justice in the courthouse. There's just some measure of accountability. There's no justice. But what would have been a fair accountability in y'all's thinking?
I was expecting, I think I would have felt better if it was anything more than 15 years. I was expecting 15 years. So with the 10-year sentence, it was a shock. I felt hurt. I felt like I buried my brother all over again.
Really?
Yes.
You felt violated again?
Yes.
Did you feel the same way?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
I expected more, and 25 was the number I had in my head. But when I consider no matter what the sentence, it wouldn't bring my son back. So my aim is for her to reflect on her actions during the time that she spends in prison, no matter how long. And I'm even more comforted knowing that she's going to be spending that time in solitary confinement, which means that for 23 hours of the day, she will not be able to see the sunlight. So I also recognize that the decision was made by a jury of 12. So it is what they felt coming out of the facts of the case that was deserving of her. So there's nothing I could do but to accept it.
We have to address the elephant in the room. This is a white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed police officer, and Botham obviously is a black man. Did that play into this?
I think it did.
You think so?
Yes.
How so? Do you think that she got a lighter sentence because of that? Had it been the other way around,
Absolutely.
What do you think would have happened?
I think he would have gotten life. And I think if it was the other way around, we wouldn't even have to wait so long for the trial, because we've seen the injustice that takes place in America. And I thought that the jury was made up of more women than men, so I believe we have that tendency as women to be more sympathetic, especially to our own. She was a woman as well. So I believe the conviction for murder is one that took a lot of courage from the jury, but then the sentence seemed to have been, I'm just guessing that it was influenced by the women.
So when the verdict came back, guilty, was this a moment of victory, of accountability?
Relief.
At least someone had been held accountable?
Yes. And that's how I felt satisfied that she has been convicted, and I was pleased with that.
And I knew it was the outcome that both of them deserved, because he was innocent, he wasn't doing any wrong, he was violated. So a conviction of murder is one that was deserving.
Right.
I cannot see my boyfriend again. I will not have him again.
Right.
So I did not jump up and showed my excitement and my joy.
Take me through the arc of that. When was the last time you did see both of them? When was the last time you saw him, and what was the exchange between you and your son?
Coming up.
He said he was shot through his heart and he died.
Oh my God. You were the first one to learn. I'm so sorry.
And later.
At the sentencing hearing, you asked if you could hug her.
Can I give her a hug, please? I don't want to live the rest of my life saying I hate you. I wish I could get you back.
Monday, they took their teenage daughter off. We now return to Dr. Phil in Dallas with the family of Botham Jean as they react to the killer cop's sentencing.
When was the last time you saw both of them?
The same time with him.
Or you guys were together?
Yes, we were together. I was in New York with my daughter, Lisa, and I had surgery, and both of them came over to see me that weekend.
Were you close?
Absolutely, very close.
Yeah.
In fact, he tried to surprise me on that visit to New York. But I think because I just had surgery, Alisa didn't want me to get too excited.
Well,
yeah.
Too excited.
Yeah, so she told me. But I still looked surprised when he came in.
Yeah. When was the last time y'all saw him? Did you see him right before or recently?
I saw him summer 2017.
Were y'all typical brothers?
Yeah.
Did you tease each other, have a good time? Yeah. Who was the biggest cut up, you or him?
Him.
Him.
Him? Yeah. When was the last time you saw him?
I saw him in May 2018. I came to Dallas to visit during spring break. We spent time together.
How did each of you find out this had happened? Was it a phone call? Did someone come and tell you? How did you learn this had happened? Because since this happened, I've been watching this since it happened. I have two boys about this age. When I read about this, my stomach just went up in my throat. I just thought, oh my God, what would I do? How did, as a dad, how did you find out about it?
About 1 a.m., my wife called me. She didn't get me. I knew it was something wrong once the phone is ringing at that hour. I heard a voice on the other end. I'm wondering what is going on. Is she ill? And then she revealed that both of them was shot. She could not even complete and see the words of the crying. Both of them was shot in his apartment, and he died. I was just, well, I couldn't process that. I just sat on my bed, could not say much.
He's an accountant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he's a police officer or something that would be in a risky situation. He's an accountant.
That was unbelievable.
And How did you find out?
Well, I was with Elisa in New York at the time, and Elisa was the one who got the call.
Oh, my God. You were the first one to learn.
Yes.
I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Thank you.
Who called you?
A social worker at Baylor Hospital. She called and she asked me if I know Botham Jean. I said, yes, he's my brother. She said, she asked me to identify, basically to identify him. And then I stopped her and I said, what's wrong with him? I thought it was a car accident.
Of course.
And she said he was brought in because he was shot. She said all she knows, he was found in his apartment. And then I asked, is he alive? And she said, I'm sorry to tell you that he succumbed to his injuries. And I said, what are you saying? Because it didn't sink in. And she said he was shot through his heart and he died.
And you contacted your brother?
My mom called, tried to get my dad. It was my phone. And it was about maybe 2 a.m. I picked up my phone. And then she asked to speak to my dad. And she sounded worried. So then I got up and went to his room. He was asleep. I gave him the phone. I knew it was bad, so I waited.
You didn't know when you...
No, I didn't know. I waited, while he was on the phone. And I kept asking, what happened? What happened? And it took him about 10 minutes to, all he said was Botham. That's all he said. Another 5 minutes later, I heard he was shot. And then that's all I knew for about, half an hour. I tried to go to bed. I was just on my laptop, and then when I fell asleep again, there were about 5 people at my house, probably about 3 a.m.
Well, you all had to see something that was horrific, and we're going to talk about it right after the break.
Coming up.
You were surprised to see body cam footage.
When I thought it was over, I opened my eyes. There he was on the floor. It was really disturbing.
We now return to Dr. Phil in Dallas with the family of Botham Jean as they react to the killer cop's sentencing.
Body cam video of an arriving officer is introduced into evidence.
It showed Geiger just moments after the shooting and Botham Jean's final moments alive.
Moments later, you can see one of the officers begin CPR on Jean for 7 minutes. Paramedics arrive about 5 minutes later.
At some point in this process, you were surprised to see body cam footage of what took place inside the apartment.
Well, the first time it came on, we left the room. And there was an understanding with the prosecution team that anytime the footage was shown, they would give us a sign. So we went out. But when she asked for a replay, I thought it was just of the corridor. So we stayed in. And then when I saw that they were going into the apartment, I didn't want to disturb the court, so I closed my eyes. And when I heard a lull, or when I thought it was over because there was no more sound, I opened my eyes and there he was on the floor. So it was really disturbing because that's exactly what I did not want to relive. I didn't want to see him in that state.
You don't want that image, right?
No.
You don't want that seared in your brain.
Yeah.
But you did see it.
Yeah, as soon as I opened my eyes, that was what was on the screen.
How many times have you seen that in your head since then?
Over and over.
Did you two see it?
Yes, we stayed.
Yeah.
Did you want to see it? Did you want to know what had happened?
Yes.
Yeah. Did it help you to see it? Or did it, how did it affect you?
I think, in a way it did. the fact that he was unconscious. I felt like he wasn't feeling everything that was going on. I felt a little better.
She was walking around saying, oh my God, I'm in so much trouble, I'm going to lose my job. Not rendering aid, but walking around saying, I'm in trouble, I'm going to lose my job. I'm paraphrasing, but how did you feel about that?
It made it worse for me, because it's one thing to know that your son was shot, but I would have felt so much better had he gotten aid immediately. And even before seeing the video footage on the 911 call, I got that sense immediately, because I wasn't even hearing the dispatcher asking about him, whether he was conscious, whether he was bleeding. You know, I didn't hear much concern about him. So that was really disturbing, that he was not given that attention he needed immediately after.
What do you think happened? Why did she walk into his apartment and shoot him?
We now return to Dr. Phil in Dallas with the family of Botham Jean as they react to the killer cop's sentencing.
It was an emotional day today in the Amber Guyger trial as the former Dallas police officer took the stand.
I feel like a terrible person. I feel like a piece of crap.
Why did she walk into his apartment and shoot him?
I think she made a mistake of the apartment. I think she was distracted, but when she got to the threshold, she said she heard shuffling, which she thought was a threat. And she went in search of that threat and intentionally killed him. So leading up to the apartment door could have been a mistake. But when she, from outside of that door, she made a decision to go in and to take out whatever threat was inside.
So you think she purposely went in there?
That's right.
And Lee, does that meet the test?
Yeah, so what the prosecution had to establish is what everyone sort of agreed to, that she was at the wrong apartment door unintentionally. It was a common mistake in that apartment complex. People ended up at the wrong door often. What became unreasonable was how she handled that situation. 92 other residents ended up at the wrong apartment door. Some of them even peeped their head in, traveled all the way into the apartment, and then realized their mistake and turned around and left. She went in with her express deadly intent to terminate the threat, to find whoever she believed was the intruder and shoot him to death. Even if she had ended up at her apartment, the law doesn't allow her to do that without that person being a threat to her. We know Botham wasn't a threat to her because he was sitting on his couch eating a bowl of ice cream.
And y'all understand that was the instruction to the jury. If you are unanimously agreed, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm jumping around, but it says if you are unanimously agreed that the defendant did not believe that she was entering her own apartment or did not believe that the deceased was an intruder, then you find her guilty. So they either had to believe that she didn't think she was in her own apartment or she didn't believe that this was an intruder or that her actions at that point were not reasonable.
Right.
And that's what you're saying, that right. Whether she, even if she believed that, her actions weren't reasonable.
Not reasonable at all.
Yeah. So, in other words, they had to find that they rejected that she reasonably acted and went in with deadly force.
That's right.
And murdered a man eating ice cream on a couch.
Yes.
And gave 10 years.
10.
Ben?
Yeah, you know, we believe it is the first time that a white policewoman has been convicted of murder for killing a black man in America ever. So that's a historic case when you look at it from that perspective. And what we are trying to do is make sure with this history lesson, America gets a teachable moment
that we have to teach police officers. They have to change this shoot first, ask questions later mentality when it comes to interactions with black and brown people. De-escalation, conflict resolution, diplomacy. She had all those opportunities before she entered that apartment, but she went in with this notion that it's a threat and I'm gonna take them out, and it happened to be one of the brightest lights the world has known.
Look, everybody knows I am a very big advocate and proponent of law enforcement. I think in the main, we have African American officers, men and women. We have Caucasian officers, men and women. And in the main, I think they all try and do a good job. But there's a curve, and there are some that don't.
That's right.
There are some that put their lives in jeopardy to save anyone, save every one of you, me, and then there are those that shouldn't have a badge and a gun.
Right.
And every police chief in America will tell you that. Yeah. You know, I stand for law enforcement in America, but that doesn't mean they all do the right thing all the time, and there definitely was accountability here. There were offensive text and statements that were shown in court. Were those offensive to you?
We now return to Dr. Phil in Dallas.
Amber Geiger's former partner, Officer Martin Rivera, testified about the racy messages they exchanged the day she shot and killed Botham Jean.
Would you send provocative photographs of yourself to Amber Geiger?
Yes. Want a touch? Read one Geiger sent around 9:30 that night. 30 minutes later, she texted, "I need you, hurry." And then, "I messed up," but using an expletive. Prosecutors say she typed while on the phone with 911 reporting she'd shot Jean.
There were offensive text and statements that were shown in court.
That's a text that she sent to her partner about getting drunk. That was the same day that I was sitting planning my son's funeral. So that one was the most offensive to me. It did not show remorse, because I couldn't imagine that someone had killed another person and was thinking about getting drunk and, you know, having a good time with her friends. So all of the act out in court didn't mean much to me because of what was revealed.
What does that say to you about her?
I just thought she depended on her police privilege and her white privilege and thought that she would have been able to get away, because 2 days after she had done that, we were told that it was just a simple mistake and she was so sorry and she was so remorseful. I felt that if we did not stand up for him, his death would have just gone down like just another black man.
Listen, you're close in age to her. If you had done something like this, made a mistake like this, if it was a mistake, certainly an error in judgment, can you fathom 2 days later doing something like that?
No. I think 2 days later, a year later, I would be a mess, knowing that I took someone's life by accident. As you said, it was a mistake. I would feel horrible. I would want to reach out to that family and let them know, to me every single day, let them know how sorry I am, how bad I feel about it. To me, I would be at their mercy.
She never sent an apology to you all?
No.
She never said she was sorry?
Never.
No, never heard any.
Well, for the first time from the stand, when she needed to gain the sympathy of this jury, she made a passionate plea to the family. And I think the prosecutor did a good job saying, I see you doing that now, but let me take you back to that night when Botham Jean's body is being rolled by her. And she's on her phone, and she's texting, and she's deleting texts, and she's planning her alibi at this point.
You say you think the investigation was botched and that the crime scene was contaminated. What was botched?
After the first responders got there, she was still up and down in the apartment. She still had access to her cell phone. She was taken away, then she was pulled back. Body cams were turned off. Dash cams were turned off. There was concealment of evidence. There was deletion of evidence. What seemed to be corrupt practice by members of the police department. So both of them, to my mind, did not get a fair chance.
2 days after this murder, we met with the lead investigator, and he said at the start of his investigation that he had already concluded that Amber Geiger just made an innocent mistake. It was no surprise at the conclusion of his investigation, he didn't feel like she did anything wrong.
When you look with your own eyes that they tell the police union president says turn off the vehicle recorder in the car. They don't do that for any other criminal suspect who's just murdered an innocent person, and they tell her, don't say anything. They like giving her warnings, and you don't hear her ever say she was in fear of her life or both of them was a threat on the 19-minute 911 call. It's only after they conspire to get the story together, because the U.S. Supreme Court has told police officers in Graham v. Connor, if you say you feel threatened, when you kill a person, especially a person of color, that's your get out of jail card free.
Some things happened at the sentencing hearing that brought the judge to tears, brought the judge off the bench. We'll be right back.
Coming up.
You asked if you could hug her.
I don't know if this is possible, but can I give her a hug, please? I thought the cameras were off. I don't want to live the rest of my life saying I hate you. I wish I could get you back.
We now return to Dr. Phil in Dallas with the family of Botham Jean as they react to the killer cop's sentencing.
At the sentencing hearing, you gave the impact statement, correct?
Yes.
During that, you asked if you could hug her.
I don't know if this is possible, but can I give her a hug, please?
I thought it was a very Christian thing to do. Would Botham have endorsed that?
Yes, he would.
Botham would have endorsed that. Did you think about that at the time? Because you were thinking, this was not for the cameras. This wasn't for anybody. This was you, your heart, and Botham, right?
I thought the cameras were off, and I was just talking to her. So, see, in my mind, if I'm going to say I forgive her, I shouldn't be able to not do these things that I would do.
If Botham's watching this, what's he say about it? Dad, what's your son say about that?
I'm well pleased.
Well pleased? What's he say about it?
Yeah, Botham was exactly that kind of person. He always saw the positive side, so I think he would have endorsed it. What I don't want people to think of it is that it was done for any publicity. Brant is not a child who wants publicity. We didn't know what he was going to do. In fact, when we were asked whether we wanted to say anything to her, we declined. Then when Brant says, yes, I want to, I was like, what are you going to say?
Right.
He said, Mommy, I just need to go. And he was headstrong about going.
It meant something to you. This was not for publicity. This was for you and your heart.
Yeah. I don't want to live the rest of my life saying I hate you. I wish I could get you back. It just clears your mind. It frees me knowing that it's settled. You would pay yes for what you did, but in my heart, I know I am free. If you truly are sorry, I know I can speak for myself. I forgive you. And I know if you go to God and ask Him, He will forgive you.
They often say to a man before they execute him is, may God have mercy on your soul. No matter what the man has done, it's like you have to answer to man's law. What you did is not okay when I forgive you. It was a heinous thing before I forgive you. It's a heinous thing after I forgive you. But I turn this over to God. God sits in judgment, not me.
Right.
You've answered man's law. This is now between you and God. What you did was horrible before I forgive you. It's horrible after I forgive you. But I choose not to be locked in a bond of hatred and bitterness with you for the rest of my life. I let that go. And when I saw that, that's what I felt you were doing.
Dr. Phil, most persons all over the world, regardless of their religious belief, say what they refer to as the Lord's Prayer.
Right.
And in it, it says, forgive those who have trespassed against us. Yeah? So what does that mean practically?
Well, this is a perfect working example of that. I have one question left for this family after the break.
We now return to Dr. Phil in Dallas with the family of Botham Jean as they react to the killer cop's sentencing.
At the break, I said I had one question left for y'all. I have two. You guys have called for peace and order from day one, minute one. You support those that are wanting this to be a landmark decision where there is accountability for another unarmed black man being shot.
The Christian faith teaches forgiveness, but it does not excuse the crime.
Right.
That's right.
And so we have to make sure that this is a teachable moment, because how many hashtags are out there, Dr. Phil, that we already know about where it was unjustifiable killings, and hopefully the legacy of Botham Jean will impact fewer hashtags, if any more, after this.
Shortly after Botham was killed, there were 9 protesters in Dallas that started being called affectionately the Dallas 9, who were arrested in protest of Amber Guyger not being arrested the night that she was that she committed this crime. And the family has always stood with them, has always appreciated those who are willing to advocate on their behalf, and to advocate for change. What Dr. King said is that peace isn't the absence of friction, it's the presence of justice. And I think that's what this family has always stood for.
My last question is about this foundation.
So the Botham Jean Foundation was established shortly after my brother was killed in October of 2018. Our motto is promoting Christian intervention for social change, because I think we thought that would be the most suiting, that Botham would endorse.
People can make donations to the foundation, and so I'm going to put that on the screen here,
Yes. Thank you.
and I'm certainly going to support it. I can't thank you enough for taking this time. I'm so impressed with your courage.
Thank you.
You've created a very important teachable moment in our country, and you're to be commended for that. Thank you. I want to thank all of my guests, attorneys Crump and Merritt, Darrell Washington, who was not here but has been a big help with everything that's happened, as well as Bertram, Allison, Brant, and Alyssa. Our prayers remain with this family as they continue to mourn a truly wonderful young man whose life was stolen from him in a senseless act far too soon. From Dallas, Texas, I'm Dr. Phil.
I'm going to slap you. And you will feel pain. But the first thing you will do is slap me back. Because you want to get revenge. You want what is fair. You want what is just. You want justice. I grew up in a place where justice is very important. I grew up in Israel and Palestine. And around me, many people are seeking justice. Justice for the murdered, justice for the kidnapped, justice for the stolen. And no one would rest, not them, not us, until justice is achieved.
Relax, 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 relax.
Just like Hollywood taught us, justice must always be served at the end of the movie. See, I don't really believe in Hollywood, and I don't really believe in justice. Because I have come to learn that forgiveness is a lot more powerful than justice. And forgiveness I learned from a woman that's very, very far away from me, called Ernestine. Ernestine lives in Rwanda, and she is the most forgiving person I have ever met. She was a victim of the Rwandan genocide. A soldier attacked her with a machete, hand-tied her, and threw her into a river to die. Then he killed her entire family. And that soldier is this person. This is a sad story that makes anyone angry. And if I were Ernestine, I would come back, find that soldier, and I would kill him. I would try to get revenge for myself and for my family. I would try to get justice. But you know, that's not what she did. Instead of taking justice, she gave forgiveness to the soldier. 25 years later, they have become friends. And she's not the only one. In her country, Rwanda, 1 million people were killed. And when the genocide ended, the country decided to forgive all the killers. Because according to their president, sorry won't bring back any lives. Only forgiveness can heal this nation. Survivors, they said, must forgive because they're the only ones with something to give. And that story really moved me. 25 years later, Rwanda healed itself. It is now one of Africa's most successful nations. It is clean, it is safe, it is thriving.
Welcome to Rwanda!
At the end of the day, each one of us is faced with injustice, and each one of us wants to slap back. But one thing my travels taught me is that justice doesn't exist in the real world. So instead of seeking justice, let us give forgiveness, because in reality, it's the only way forward. See you next week.